Hello and welcome to this tutorial, and in this tutorial what we are going to do is that we are going to learn how to build the logic behind this login screen so that whenever a valid username and password are entered, the user actually gets an access to a new activity. So in order to design the logic of our application, we actually need to code it in Java. So we switch to the main activity.java file, and what we have done is that we have added a method to this button clicked right here. So basically whenever we click this button, this method gets executed. So inside this we need to mention, or we need to write in the code so as to check if the entered email ID and password is correct. So in order to check it, what we do is that we first get a reference to these two edit text. So in order to get a reference to them, what we do is that we type edit text. Let's name the first one as et1, then we type this equals, and let's typecast it to edit text, and then type in find view by id r dot id dot, and we get the reference of the first edit text by its id. So if we select it, go to properties, you will find the id to be my email. So let's get a reference by typing my email. So we have a reference to the first one. Now let's go ahead and get a reference to the second edit text. So we type edit text, and actually I forgot to give a semicolon right here. Okay, so now we return back here, and then we type in edit text. Let's name the second one as et2 equals, let's typecast it. So we type edit text find view by id r dot id dot. This time we are going to get a reference to the password, so we specify my pass over here. So once we have the reference to both of these, now the next thing which we need to do is that we actually need to create two strings so as to save the username, the email, and the password. So the first thing which we do is that we create a string variable. Let's call it as email. Then inside it we actually want to store the edit text one, or the contents of the edit text one. So we type et1 dot get text. So this basically gets the text, but in order to store it into the string variable, we use the toString method. So this basically is going to extract the contents from the edit text, and it is going to store it into the string which is called as email. Now the next thing which we do is that we do the same for the password. So we type string pass equals et2, which is nothing but the edit text for the password, then type in get text dot toString. So at this point we have the email and password stored into these particular strings. Now the only thing which we need to do is that we need to check a condition. Now if you are making an online application wherein you have the email and password stored in the database, so what you could do is that you could use some backend technology. You could use PHP in order to, let's say, connect to the database and retrieve the actual username and password over here, and you could use them to compare it. But for the sake of this tutorial, we are going to actually hard code the login credentials within the application itself. So basically we are going to have only one email and password which is going to be correct. So the next thing which we do is that we actually design a case for validating this. So it is going to be a simple Java code. So basically we check for conditions. So we type if, let's say, email dot equals, and this equals thing, it basically checks for a condition like if this equals something. So what we want to do is that if email equals admin, and let's say we add one more condition, so we type and I think instead of just passing in a string here, what we do is that we create one more string which is called as the original email and original password. So we type string o email, which is original email, and let's create one more string which called as opass, which is original password, and let's initialize this to admin, and let's also initialize this thing to admin as well. So basically whenever the user is going to enter admin into both fields, this should be a. So whenever he enters admin into both fields, he is actually going to get access to our application. So if email dot equals o email and pass dot equals admin, that is nothing but opass. So if this thing is there, that means we want to grant user access to our application, or else what we are going to do is that we are going to raise a toast which says invalid email. So in this case, what we are going to do is that we are going to create a new activity which basically gives user an access to the application, or else we are going to raise a toast which says invalid email or invalid password. So in case if the user ID and the password is invalid, so in that case what we want to do is that we want to display a toast which says invalid address or password. So we create a toast here, so we type toast, then we type the name of the toast, so let's say we name it as toast, then this equals toast.makeText, and the first parameter which we pass is going to be this, then the second one is going to be the actual text which we want to display, so let's say invalid email or password, and the final thing is going to be the duration of the toast. So let's say we want it to be displayed for a longer period of time, so we type toast dot length long. So once it is done, we are good to go. Now what we are going to do is that we are going to add in a new activity to this in the next tutorial, but for the moment let's check how our application performs, and let's enter an invalid email and password, and let's see if the toast is going to pop up. So we simply save the code and we run our application on our device. And I think we forgot one thing to do here. We finally forgot to show the toast. So finally we go here and finally we type in toast.show. So once it is done, we are good to go. So we save our application, and when we run our application on our device. So on running my application on the device, this is what I get. So if I type in admin and admin as the email and password and hit continue, nothing happens. And if I type something wrong and hit continue, as you could see, the pop-up just popped up which says invalid email or password. So that's it for this tutorial, and I hope you guys understood how to actually validate the email and password. And actually this is not the correct way of validating the email and password, because the email and password should be actually stored in an online database, but as we are not studying online databases or backend technologies right now, so basically what happens is that whenever we pass in a request to check the email and password, it is going to retrieve the data from the backend, and it is going to basically compare the entered data with the retrieved data, and if a match occurs, then it is going to validate the user. But in this case we have hard-coded the original email as well as the password inside here. So in the next tutorial what we are going to do is that we are going to create a new activity, and we are going to start an intent for that activity over here whenever the user is validated. So thank you very much for watching this tutorial, and I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Thank you.